Okay, we're going to do our best to wrap up this game. Georgia, a winner over Kent State, 39-22. And if it sounds a little bit ugly, it was. Um, this is the second home game in a row where Georgia's not played as crisp as they would want to, just generally speaking. I mean, I think this is how it works in sports. You don't just get to pick the plays where, this play matters and this play doesn't. And generally speaking, Georgia was sort of vastly the better team. Clearly, I mean, they won the game by 17 points. And I thought Kent State ran the ball enough today, 93 yards rushing. Georgia had 250. I thought Kent State threw it fine, 188. Georgia had 272. That's over 500 yards of offense. You score 40 points basically, and nobody's happy. And Georgia didn't punt today. So at the end of the day, Ladd McConkey had a bad game. And did it cost them the game? It did not. And I think at the end, for Georgia, you just don't want to play this sloppy at moments during a season. And these guys are not playing as well as last year's team did. At the end of September, a season ago, they had buzzsawed through, UAB. They had done the same thing to just everybody they played, it seemed like, except Clemson. I mean, they came in and they just slashed Vanderbilt. They did not play well against South Carolina last season, generally speaking. And they won that game was a little bit like this. I mean, this team is probably better than last year's South Carolina team, but it doesn't make them good. And for all Kirby's talk about how good Kent State is, yeah, okay, when you hand them the ball four times and, you're dropping touchdowns in the end zone, yeah, the other team is going to look, good. And I thought they were a perfectly adequate team. They're a good team in the MAC. Obviously, they won their league a year ago. So, yeah, but all these games are not about the other team. It's about Georgia. And they did not play as well this week as they did last week. They played better in Columbia than they did this week. They played better in Columbia than they did in Athens the week before against Samford. This was more of an offensive explosion. Obviously, 40 points, they're 39, whatever, than the Samford game. But they are missing pieces here. I mean, Edwards looks like Georgia's either best running back or best closing running back. Stetson is an extremely good runner. Ladd McConkey, by the way, had 6 catches for 65 yards. He just dropped a touchdown. He had the punt reception that he dropped. That was really the mistake. The fumble that he had, that was a really good play by the kid from Kent State, period. I mean, the kid just made a great play. Ladd fumbled the ball. That was it. That was a good play. But it really was the punt was the issue, the punt return. That can't happen. And it gave Kent State 3 points, And so these games are, you don't take points away. Once you score them, they're up there forever. And it's not like golf where you can goof up and recover and all that. No, once the score is up there, it's up there. But Jack Benesley, he had a good day. I mean, he just never sort of lets them down. He had a 39, 31, 32. They were all clear. The Kent State kicker, if you want to say he had a better day than Jack, that's fine. He had 245s and a 22. I thought Georgia's defense really played well at moments, man. I mean, stopping them from scoring a touchdown. There were times, I mean, again, they won the game by 17 points. I know they were favored by 40-something. Some of us picked Kent State against the spread because these spreads are getting just crazy. And but I just, they're not as crisp at times. If the standard is the standard, then we're always going to judge it on the standard, right? And that means that, what I'm trying to say here, and it's kind of hard because you don't want to sit there and say, well, they didn't play perfect, therefore it was bad. And you don't want to say, oh, everything's cool because they won by 17. No, it wasn't. I mean, this was sort of the way that Clemson beat Georgia Tech. Like, it shouldn't have been that close, and they pushed through in the fourth quarter or whatever. Georgia did not play to the standard it needs to play today to win the national championship. Today. Last week they did. Against Oregon, they did, and to some degree against Stanford, they did. Today, though, no. And why? Well, it was the mistakes. I mean, it's just too many mistakes. Now, I'm trying to look for penalties here. Georgia only had 2 penalties. It was a clean game. I mean, 6 total penalties for 47 yards. That's really 2 well-coached teams. But it was the interception from Stetson. I mean, it looked to me like he underthrew the ball, but he said it was a miscommunication. Um, you know, Georgia's still sort of trying to find itself a little bit in the run game. But they lost 2 fumbles. You just can't give the ball away that many times. So you're only gonna have about 12. You're only gonna have about 12 possessions a game. And if you give away 3, like 2, okay, because sometimes you can get them back. But I thought the Kent State coaches, honestly, and they at least held their own, if not outcoached Georgia today. The fake punt, that's 2 weeks in a row. I think the way that their kids stuck in there, they were not the better team. I mean, Georgia should have won this game by another 2 touchdowns, and they didn't. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, you win by 17. People that are watching the game at home, they'll know that Georgia just kind of didn't play well. But nationally, people won't think about it. It's the first time. Well, it's not the first time, but it's the first time Georgia's played a Division I school where they hadn't scored 40 points. So, but they scored 39. And defensively, I thought the defense played okay when you're missing Jalen Carter. I think that hurts. You didn't have A.D. Mitchell out there. Those are 2 really good players for Georgia on both sides of the ball. And I think for them, getting those guys back, that will help quite a bit over time. But yeah, this was not what it needed to be. And there's good and bad out of that. The good is, what it's like to be in a game in the fourth quarter. That it came against Kent State is irrelevant. The pressure is there. And when you haven't felt pressure in a season, it's good to respond to that pressure. And we saw that today from Georgia. They were only up 10. They were trying to close the game out. They did close the game out. That was really good. But the bad was, it doesn't matter who you play. It matters how you play. And today, it just wasn't as good as it should be. I mean, again, if it's about a standard, that was not an ideal situation today. I mean, look, listen to the first half stats. The first half stats, I mean, Georgia dominated the game, and they were only up 26-13. Kent State had 15 yards rushing. They had 124 total yards, and they were within two scores. So that's what turnovers do, okay? The McConkey punt turnover, that basically gifted 3 points to Kent State, and it gave momentum. But it was the other good play from the kid from Kent State, because I think a play later, Kent State scored on a pop play. They just, boom. 56-yard pass. It's just a good play from Kent State back-to-back. Well, if it's a good play from Kent State and it's back-to-back, you're basically looking at, they score 10 points the whole game. There's a huge difference in a 39-10 score versus a 39-22 or whatever it turned out to be. You're not going to stop people all game long. It just doesn't happen. There's, 200 football plays, with special teams. There's too many opportunities to score. You can't stop people forever. And with the particular style, the way that Kent State played, it made it tricky, but it doesn't matter if you're Georgia. I mean, like, Kent State didn't even get into the red zone in the first half, and they had 13 points. Like, as an offense. They did not drive into in the red zone. So this is about cleaning things up. And against Oregon and Carolina, you saw Georgia take advantage of the position that they were in, scoring touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. I thought they were extremely balanced today, 256, 257 rushing, 50-something, 270-something passing. Brock Bowers continues to just be very difficult to deal with. I thought Bear Alexander looked good today. I thought, and I think Kendall Milton, I think the running backs are getting there. It's just not there yet. I think Tate Ratledge had a moment that was not good that I recall. And it's tough for me sometimes to see everybody all the time. but everybody's going to concentrate on Ladd, and deservedly so. But he shouldn't really care, and it's easy for someone in their 40s to say that, because of course you're going to be naturally pissed off and like da 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 da. But it's done. It doesn't matter. You won. Everybody celebrated Ladd McConkey for a long time, and he was their leading receiver today. 6 catches, 65 yards. I mean, he probably should have had 8 catches for 100, or 8 catches for like 120. But it's what it is, and you don't get to choose when you play bad. Sometimes it just happens. This was approaching playing poorly. The challenge of sports and life and all this stuff is grinding out as much as you can get from when you don't play well, because most days are not your best day. We've seen some fluctuation in the way Georgia's played. They played really well in Columbia. South Carolina kind of quit a little bit. And the more I watch other teams play, Oregon just didn't have any answers that day. And Georgia can swamp you real quick. They just kicked too many field goals today. And, that's what happens when you're not efficient in the end zone. I thought Stetson's touchdown, this is maybe the one play that should be talked about more often. But Stetson's really gutty, and it didn't look like he got in, just from my perspective at first. That touchdown before the half, I mean, you're talking about the difference between, 19-13, and people are really wondering what's going on, and 26-13. Stetson's legs are like a fine automobile. Like it's like the automobile in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, it should be respected. Like, people should polish it. And like, you don't want to overdo it, or it's the Rain Man car. Like, this is a car to be respected. Like, we had really some great car movies in the 80s, but like, when he needs to do it, he can ball out, no question. And that's a part of the run game. So I was not impressed with this, globally speaking, but that globally is mainly about the mistakes that Georgia made. You want to talk about Kent State being good? I mean, whatever. I don't know what that means. I know that Georgia needs to play better than they played today if they plan on winning the SEC championship and winning the national championship. Congratulating on Kent State. I mean, it's about what Georgia is doing. Georgia doesn't give Kent State the ball at the 5 or whatever it was. They don't have that early momentum. I mean, that was, where was that ball? I can't remember when he fumbled it, but it was a 45. So they I think they went backwards even, Kent State, on that drive where they got the ball. And they did hang in there, but that's not the point. The point is, you have your own issues. You have to clean up your own stuff. There's going to be days where Stetson Bennett can't save you all the time, or Brock Bowers doesn't score multiple touchdowns. This team is an all-court player. It can do everything. It can shoot threes, drive it, post people up. They can go fast break. They can slow it down. But they have to use their whole arsenal all the time. And the biggest thing in that is playing effectively and executing all the time. Easier said than done? Yeah, but you're the number 1 team in the country. We always hear about the standard. And, one thing Kirby was talking about today, he was very active today coaching. Very. And one thing that he was talking about is testing their mental toughness muscle. I can't remember what they call it, but there's truth to that. Like, you don't know how to react until you've been in that situation. This team has not been in that situation. One thing Stetson said to us after the game, said to me at least, was, everybody thinks, these guys have played 3 games. They think, oh, well, this is just what it is. We're kind of gods. No, the other team gets to play too. And so Georgia's fine. This is fine. They're 3-0. You're starting a real, conference play right now. Missouri is the next 2 games are there. The next 3 games, the teams are not good. Okay, but they're there. And it doesn't matter what the other team is. If they play well, if they don't play well, this is only about Georgia, period. Um, this isn't, Kent State post, or, people aren't coming to watch Kent State. They're coming to watch the Dogs. They want to watch to see what happens with the Dogs, period. They don't, that's just what it is. And so, now Georgia needs to serve notice once more that they are dangerous. They just didn't play as well today as you'd like to. And they won by 17. And they had 500 yards of offense. So, I mean, it just wasn't an unbelievable performance, and they won by 17. There's worse things in the world. I've seen Georgia play worse. I can assure you of that. I've seen Kirby's teams play worse. They lost to South Carolina in 19. They lost to Nicholls State. They lost to Vanderbilt. Now, that was a different time in theory, but these early games can be a little bit tricky. I will grant that. I will grant you that. But man, hey, it's up to the kids now. Listen, it ain't up to the coaches. It's up to the kids on the team to be ready for a noon game. They went to Columbia. They were perfectly ready to go there. You have to create your own energy and give the fans something to cheer about. If you're trying to get hyped up, do something that, just play your position and be who you are, and you will get hyped up because you will make the plays that you need to make. But they just was not where they need to be. It was fine for today. It's not where they need to be. We'll see you on the site. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION links down below.